I had a client who did my online course, and his anxiety reduced with 50%. I think it was after 4 weeks of just doing some simple breathing practices. He had an anxiety journal. He realized that he didn't even write in his anxiety journal, which he has done every day before that. So it can really have an impact if you want to improve, because it's not me or someone else who's going to fix your anxiety. It's you with help with your breath.
Elsa, I'm so excited that you're here on my Challenge Your Norm podcast, and I cannot wait today to learn more about the transformative work that you do through breathwork. We just, before starting this recording, did a little 2-minute one of your recordings, and I feel so different than 2 minutes ago. It's powerful. But before we dive into this, I just want to share with the audience how we met.
Yeah.
Because we both go to the same office, the Lighthouse in Venice.
Exactly.
And I had seen you every morning coming on your bike in your fitness clothes. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm saying that is because, first of all, you coming on your bike, I love it. I'm from Denmark, and I'm like, this is my kind of girl. And secondly, you were in your fitness clothes, and I would come to the office as the only person in fitness clothes because I would like do morning cardio, and then I would go back to the gym because I was prepping for a competition. And I was just inspired by the energy you came, and it almost gave me permission to show up the way that I was. I didn't know till later that you then would shower and change. Incredible. And you just now here came as well on your bike. Love it.
All sweaty.
It's amazing. You then one day come up to me and you introduced yourself, which made me very happy. And you're from Sweden. Mm-hmm. And we clicked, and I asked you to come on this podcast. And we've now had this planned for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited that you're here. I can't wait to get to know you more and learn from all your incredible wisdom.
Me too. I'm like smiling. Yeah, me too.
I would love to start to ask you why you feel breath work has this transformative and healing power. Mm-hmm. Did you have an experience at some point where you realized this that got you into it? I would love to just start there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad question, or I'm thinking of it as a broad answer maybe, because I learned about breathing through a podcast with James Nestor where he talked about his book, Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art. And he just dove into the science of breathing and how every day, the way we breathe on a day-to-day basis, how much that impacts how healthy we are or how sick we are. And he went through the history, and it was just so interesting. And everything he said, I was like, how have I not learned about this in school? I've never heard about this. I've heard my whole life that you should breathe into the belly, but I've never heard really why belly breathing is so good. So I'm like, I'm breathing up in my chest. It works fine.
Guilty.
I don't have to. I didn't know that the nose was for breathing, the mouth was for eating, the mouth was just a backup for when, thank God we have a backup system for when our noses is clogged. But I didn't know that was the rule or how our bodies were designed. And there was so much more that I had never heard about or no one told me. And I think it's important. So that's how I got into breathing and then he also talked about how much it impacts our anxiety levels, our sleep, even asthma, all so many different diseases that are related to how we breathe, good or bad. And I just thought, I have so many people around me that suffers from anxiety, and if this could help them with a few percentages, let's try. Why do no one talk about this if it can have such a big impact on our mental and physical health? So that got me motivated to be I need to know more about this for myself and to just spread with the people I know. And then another answer to your question is why it's important and why it's such a big deal is because we think we are breathing right naturally. People go well, I've been practicing breathing my whole life, I know how to do it. I do it automatically. So I must be doing it right. But that's not the case for everyone, because there are so many things that makes us bad breathers, actually. There's a theory that we are the worst breathers on the planet amongst all the animals, like we human beings, except from overbred dogs, of course. But why are we such bad breathers, the human beings, is because Likely because we live so far away from the life our bodies are designed to live, like 300,000 years ago when our body developed into being who we are today or what we are today, and think about how we lived 300,000 years ago compared to how we live today. So a few examples, just like understand why we are bad breathers naturally. Most of us. One reason is because we sit too much. We sit like this and we're forcing our breath up into our chest because we can't literally like use our diaphragm properly. Our diaphragm is our main breathing muscle. I didn't even know that before I got into this. I've heard about the diaphragm. I don't know where it sits. I don't know what it does, but it's literally our main breathing muscle. So we sit too much, hunch forward, we're compressing our lungs, our diaphragm, we have tight clothes that are pulling our belly in, we pull our belly in to look more attractive, so we again force our breath into our chest. We spend too much time indoors with heated rooms, with a lot of clothes on. When we're hot, our breathing rate goes up, so we breathe faster. We become fast breathers. We sit in maybe poor ventilated rooms, which means I breathe in your breath and you breathe in mine, and I might maybe breathe in my own breath again, which is not really good for us to breathe in other people's breath because it doesn't have that much oxygen and it has more carbon dioxide. And then we go outside and our air is polluted, so we breathe in the polluted air. And then lastly, we don't chew our food enough. So I had never heard about that before either, before I learned about everything breathwork, is that, well, why don't we chew our food enough, first of all? Well, because we are, like, after the Industrial Revolution, or even when we started to heat up our food with fire and cooking, we didn't have to chew as much because we're processing our food. Like, every step that we are making our meal through heat or chopping or grinder or whatever we use, we process the food, so we don't have to chew as much. Like before, we chew like meat, roots, whatever we were chewing on back in the days. So we used our jaws a lot back in the days, and now we don't need to use them as much because our food is very soft. Like we even drink our food nowadays, smoothies. They are so healthy. We eat avocado, rice, all those processed. Not that that's processed, but it's very soft food. And when we don't chew our food enough, our jaws get weak because we don't use the muscles in our jaws properly. And when our jaw gets weak, our mouth gets small and our airways get narrow. So we find it even harder to breathe because of this whole development. And that's also one of the main reasons why we have crooked teeth. It's not that our teeth are too big for our mouth, it's our mouth have grown smaller and we still have the same size of the teeth, so they grow crooked. They don't have the space. So those are a few reasons why we're not naturally automatically breathing perfectly. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I can't
so
even
many
remember.
things I didn't even know. No, but this is amazing. So for all of us who do breathe badly, how can we learn to breathe well?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it takes practice. We just did a breathing practice, which was very slow. So maybe you felt like, it's a little too slow for me. You were maybe feeling like you needed more air.
It was very slow, yeah.
So when we first try something that we're not used to, if we're used to breathing up in our chest pretty fast and shallow, maybe even through the mouth, it's not so easy to just switch to nose breathing, slow breathing, and low breathing, which are like the three main steps to healthy everyday breathing. Breathing low, using your diaphragm, breathing slow in and out so you don't hear your breath, it shouldn't be fast, and then breathing through the nose. So when you switch to those three steps, it's not so easy because we're so used to breathing the opposite. So it takes practice. And you can practice your breath through different breathing practices. It's the same with going to the gym. It's the same as building a muscle, not physiological the same, but metaphorically, it's the same as building muscles. If you go to the gym and you lift your goal weight, you're not going to be able to maybe lift it, or it's going to be super uncomfortable, super heavy. Same with breathing. If you switch from a dysfunctional breathing straight into functional breathing, it's going to be super uncomfortable and super heavy. So you need to start with a lighter weight, and you want it to feel a little discomfort. Like, you want to feel the discomfort, because if you're lifting too easy, you're not going to build muscles. But when you start to feel that resistance from the weight, that's when you build muscle. Same with breathing. So that's why breath training can feel a little uncomfortable in the beginning, because that's when you strengthen your breathing. That's when you create resistance to your breathing, and that's when you adopt to a slower breath or breathing through the nose. And it's complicated, but we can go into it. But that's the short answer to like how to improve your breath. You need to do some training.
I love this.
But,
and the one, yes.
But also people are like, oh, I don't have time to add one more thing into my life. I don't have time to put time aside for breathing. Well, good thing is you're breathing through everything you do. So you can just apply a breathwork practice when you do something else. When you're going for your run, or when I'm on my bike, I make sure to do like nose breathing, or I hold my breath, or I breathe in for 4 strokes. I breathe out for 8 strokes, for example. So you can do breath training when you do something else. When you watch TV or whatever you're watching, you can do breathwork training when you do something else. You don't need to add more time. It's great if you do, because it also calms your nervous system and you take a break from all the stimuli. But if you feel like it's either, anyways, yeah.
So for someone that's like, okay, I'll try while maybe I'm doing some work that doesn't require all my attention, or I'm biking or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have like a exercise? Is it counting your breaths in, or and counting them out? Mm-hmm. Is that what do you recommend people try?
I recommend the first step I usually say, which is the most boring step, which I would hate if someone told me, but it is the first step. It's to start to notice how you breathe. It's to start to become more curious. Get to know your breath, simply. Notice when you breathe, when you work out, for example. Notice when you switch from nose breathing to mouth breathing, or maybe you start with mouth breathing. Notice when you feel that your breath is heavier. Notice when you start to breathe up into your chest. Notice when you breathe into your belly. So like throughout the day, notice how you breathe. Get to know your breath, because the more you get to know your breath, the more you will pick up on how you breathe when you're not thinking of your breath. So now I'm like, I notice if I'm breathing through my mouth or if I'm breathing through my nose when I don't do breath work, when I do something else, because I'm so aware of how I'm breathing. Yeah. So you pick up how you breathe when you don't think about your breath, by getting to know your breath. And why is that good? Well, because that's when you can tweak it. Because if you don't get to know your breath, you won't think about how you breathe during the day, and you won't have the opportunity to improve it, because you just forget that you can improve it. So that's the first step. Get to know your breath. Just explore it. So most people have never like sat down and had their eyes closed and just felt what happened in their body when they breathe. What parts of your body move? Can you feel the air coming in? Is there a different temperature in the air you're breathing in versus out? So it's a lot of those things that you can play around with. And then the second step is to learn to nose breathe as much as you can. And maybe that sounds simple to some, maybe that sounds impossible to some, because you might have allergies or whatever, you have a deviated septum, or it's just uncomfortable to breathe through your nose. But the more you breathe through your nose, the easier it will get, no matter if you have a deviated septum, no matter if you have allergies. It will get a little easier. Some people may need surgery for different reasons, but the more you use your nose, the more it will open up. So it's use it or lose it. If you don't use your nose, it starts to clog up and it will be harder to breathe through it.
I feel like I've already improved my breathing from speaking to you. I'm like literally thinking about my breath and breathing through my nose. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That makes me think about mouth tape.
Yeah.
Which I did like a little experiment at one point where I used it, and it was amazing. And then you lost life it and I stopped. What do you feel about mouth tape?
I'm for mouth taping for most people. Some people need to do like a sleep study to see if they have sleep apnea or something like that. But for most people, it's a good thing if you think you're breathing through your mouth when you sleep. But most people think, I nose breathe all the time. And then I'm like, well, do you know if you breathe through your nose or mouth when you sleep? And they're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I breathe through my nose when I sleep. And then they try mouth tape and they're like, I ripped it off in sleep. Well, why did you do that? Because you wanted to breathe through the mouth. So we think we are a nose breather most of the time. And then when we start to think about it, we're like, I was actually breathing through my mouth when I focused, or when I went for my run, or when I walked up the stairs. I'm for mouth taping. And this is mouth tape, for those of you who haven't heard about it, that you put over your mouth. It could just be like a tiny piece of tape, and it should be medical tape, paper tape that you find in your like first aid kits. So it shouldn't be like a normal tape or anything. And nowadays there are hundreds of brands that are for mouth tape.
Yeah. Some are more expensive than others, for sure.
And my issue with them, it's great if it makes people use it, but my issue is like, they are big. They're like taking up the whole face almost.
It's like a double kissing mouth situation. Yeah,
exactly. But what I just use my medical tape that I have at home. I do like a stamp size, even smaller, like my nail almost. And it just goes from the top of my lip to the bottom. It's like tiny, which means
So you use it every day?
Not every day. There was a time, I think I used it every day for 2 years. And then I ran out and then I forgot to buy a new one. And then I got used to don't do it. And now I'm back to it.
Okay.
Because it just, I don't know if I'm breathing through my mouth when I sleep. I think I breathe through my nose because I never take it off in sleep. It's always exactly where I put it in the morning. But it's just reassurance that I'm breathing through my nose when I sleep.
Yeah.
So it's more of a like breath training for 8 hours without having to lift my finger.
Yeah. There's 2 places I want to go. But first, since we're talking about sleep.
Yeah.
And breathing through your nose. I know a lot of people wake up really anxious or overwhelmed. Because we just did a 2-minute, like literally 2 minutes of breathing.
Yeah.
And I think we were both like excited and then we just got so grounded. So for people who wake up feeling anxious or overwhelmed, is there something they can do for 60 seconds, 120 seconds, something?
Yeah, and there are some things to be said because people who are prone to anxiety or have anxiety, they often feel more anxious when they check in with their breath because they are breathing in an anxious way. They're breathing maybe a lot up in their chest. They're breathing fast, maybe not through the mouth, but I'm just saying those 3 things because the mouth, chest, fast breathing, they signal stress to our brain, so they make us more stressed. But anyways, a lot of people who feel anxious, they have this breathing pattern. So when they check in with their breath, they feel like they're doing the 3 things or like at least breathing up into the chest fast. So they get more anxious. They're like, it's exactly how it shouldn't be. And they're judging their breath. First of all, it's just good to know that it's very common to feel more anxious when you check in with your breath in the beginning, but it's when you learn the breathwork training and the breathwork practice that you start to become friends with your breath. You work with your breath instead of against it. And that's when you can see anxiety levels drop. Just to give you an example, if people don't trust or that they can't see a relationship between breathing and anxiety, I had a client who did my online course and his anxiety reduced with 50%. I think it was after 4 weeks of just doing some simple breathing practices. He had an anxiety journal. He realized that he didn't even write in his anxiety journal, which he has done every day before that. So it can really have an impact if you want to improve, because it's not me or someone else who's going to fix your anxiety. It's you with help with your breath. But what can you do in the morning instead of maybe checking in with your breath, because that can make you more stressed or anxious? You can do humming. You can breathe in through the nose and you can hum. And then you hum until your breath is gone, and then you breathe in through the nose and you do another hum. And you do that for a few minutes. Maybe you do that for 1 minute, maybe you do that for 5 minutes. And there's a lot of things to humming. First of all, it lengthens your exhale. You can try at home, or if you're listening to this, you can try and hum fast or make the breath short. It doesn't work. Like if you hum, you can't breathe fast. So it makes your exhale longer, which has an impact on your heart. It actually slows down your heart, because every time you inhale, your heart speeds up. And every time you exhale, your heart slows down. So if you spend longer time exhaling, you give your heart more time to slow down. So the heart thing happens with every breath. Your breath now, it speeds up slightly, it slows down slightly. So it's happening with every breath we take. That's the first one. The second one is that you breathe slower when you hum. And when you breathe slower, you signal to your brain that you are calm and safe, which means you can relax and feel safe and reduce cortisol, adrenaline, and all those things that can cause anxiety. So you are literally changing the hormones in your body when you breathe. What else? Humming. You breathe in more nitric oxide, which is a gas that you produce amongst other places in your body in your nose. And when you breathe in nitric oxide, it dilates your airways and your blood vessels, which means it makes it easier for you to breathe, and you oxygenate your body more. So when you oxygenate your body, including your brain, you think more rational, more logic, more, long-term goal oriented. You don't just take quick decisions or think irrational, because you have blood and oxygen in your brain where you need it to think clearly. So all this helps with anxiety. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's incredible. Wow. And when it comes to breathing and the oxygenation of the brain, does that also work with the body? Because I came to the States to dance. And a lot of what we were taught also had to do with how to breathe when dancing, especially when it's really intense choreographies.
Yeah.
Do you have any knowledge when it comes to performance or exercising and breathing? Mm-hmm. Is that something you have experience with, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for performance, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're breathing fast. Then you can use breathwork practices to slow. Exactly the same thing as with the anxiety in the morning.
Yeah.
It's the same reaction in the body, so you can use the same practice to slow it down. When it comes to exercise, like you mean sports performance or physical
activity. Yeah.
So where there's a lot to say about breathing and physical activity. Again, coming back to the simple step, nose breathing could be the first step. And that could be a step that you need to work with for a long time, because it's not so easy as it sounds. If I say, go for a run and only breathe through your nose, most people will be like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not even going to try. But trust the process. You will be stronger every time you lift your weight. It will be easier every time you...
That's a good challenge to do at whatever workout you do, focusing on breathing through your nose.
Exactly. And there's two ways to go about it. The first way, which I don't recommend, I recommend the second. The first way is, say you go for a run. We take run as an example, but it applies to everything, or most sports. Say you go for a run, you start out with nose breathing, and then you feel like, no, this is not working. I need to switch to mouth breathing. Oh, then you can switch to mouth breathing. And then next round, you might run a little further or longer before you need to switch. The second option, though, that most people don't go with, but that I recommend, is to, when you feel like I can't breathe through my nose anymore, I need to switch to mouth breathing, slow down. Slow down and continue breathe through your nose. Slow down so much that you can continue to breathe through your nose. And then you will acclimatize faster, because you are using your nose. Remember, use it or lose it. So if you switch to mouth breathing, it will be even harder to switch back to nose breathing. But if you keep nose breathing, it will start to open up.
So when you're doing, because you told me you bike everywhere here in LA, which is not the easiest thing, because there's not always biking lanes. I mean, Santa Monica and Venice, it's easier than other places, but it's still more challenging. So you always try to... Even through the up the hills that you were getting? I
think I did.
Here? Yeah. That's impressive. That's amazing. It just shows that you've probably been practicing this for
and what most people go like, if they try, they're like, oh, I produce so much mucus in my nose, so I can't do it. But you have to either bring a tissue or make sure you just, empty your nose. It's a simple thing. You just blow out one and then blow out the other. So I do that all the time. So when I run with a group, I'm like, oh, they might think I'm a little weird now, but it's for nose breathing. But you can bring a tissue.
Yeah, amazing. Talking about biking everywhere. I know that's because you're from Sweden.
Yeah.
I am curious, just for me and anyone listening, how your journey has been moving from Sweden to LA.
Yeah. So I actually spent a few years in London between. So I moved from Sweden to London. And then I lived in London for 6 years. And then...
For 6 years?
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask you, how old are you?
I'm 35.
It's obvious that you live this because you look so healthy and young. Your
Really?
skin, you're glowing. Yeah. You can tell when someone really takes care of yourself,
Yeah.
Don't you feel like you can see that in people when they...
No, I have the same with one person. She looks so young and she's so much older than she looks. And she takes care of...
It's inside out. It shows. Yeah.
But yeah, so I moved to London. I lived there for 6 years with my husband. And then before I even moved to London, I said to my husband, I was like, I want to move to the US. It's always been a dream to move to the US.
And where's he from?
He is also from Sweden.
Okay.
But he lived in London when we became a couple. So he was like, why don't you start in London? And then you can think about moving to the US. So I moved to him in London. And then after 6 years, I was like, okay, I'm ready to move to the US now. And luckily he got a job in LA at the same time. So he was like, okay, Incredible. I got a job in LA. Should we move to LA? And I was like, sure, I've never been, but I guess I would like it. So yeah, had never been to LA before, moved. And then now we've been here 6 years or 7, coming up to 7. And yeah, before I lived in LA, I didn't work with breathwork. So it started here really. I had time in the beginning when I moved here where I couldn't work because of work permits and stuff. Everyone who's not from here knows what I'm talking about. So I had some time to explore like, okay, what do I want to do? I did a few different courses and then I got into breathing and I was like, oh, I want to learn more about that for myself. I also did a yoga teacher training just to like learn more about it for myself. And then I started teaching. And then anyway, so I did this breathing certificate. And at the same time as I finished the program, I went to a dinner and then I told someone that I finished my breathwork coaching training and someone overheard and they were like, oh, did you say you were a breathwork coach? And I've told this story so many times, but I was like, in my head, I was like, not at all. Like, this was just for myself. I'm not a coach. Like, I could not think that I'm a coach. Anyways, so I was just in my head, I was like, not at all. And then my head was like nodding. I don't think I even said something. I was like, and then she was like, oh my God, I read this book by James Nestor, the same book that got me into breathing. I think, I can't remember exactly what the steps were, but she was like, I've read this book by James Nestor. I know I'm breathing wrong. I don't know how to breathe right. Are you taking on clients? And again, my head was like, clients? No, I'm not even. Like, what? And then my head was like,
this is amazing. I feel like it's also a very Scandinavian mindset of like, no, I can't do that even though I actually have the education for it. From the northern countries, we have this like, we have to be like overly educated and like years and years of experience before we feel ready to do that. But I'm so happy the universe, God, whatever you believe in, brought you.
Yeah.
That it's wild how things work.
Yeah, it's crazy when I think back to it now. But so I was just nodding. I'm like, taking on clients. Yes. And she was like, great. Can we start tomorrow? I was like, yes, perfect. And then we were going to do it in person because COVID, the restrictions just happened. We called each other later that night and we were like, we should probably do it over the phone. So we don't like, because it was like probably the last dinner I went to before the shutdown. So we did it online and that worked perfect because it's just me telling her how to breathe and do the practices. So it doesn't have to be in person. So that's how I got into this business. And then she told all her friends because she just benefited so much from what she had done with her own breath from just learning a few tweaks and techniques. So she told her friends and then all of a sudden I was in business.
This is incredible.
And at the same time, I've got to tell you, at the same time I got my work permit. And then, so many other things happen after that that are like, what? That's crazy.
Tell us. We love stories like that on this channel.
So I had my clients. I was like, I didn't even know this was a job before I got into this. But my husband was like, we live in LA. You can do anything here.
Seriously.
Like, everyone wants something. And then my husband also took a new like career path from working with advertisement to opening a restaurant. So he opened a restaurant and the neighbors to the restaurant came over and just like, hey, we're your neighbors. We just want to say hi. We work with breathwork. We have a studio next door, like literally next door. And my husband's business partner was like, oh, Arvid's wife is a breathwork coach. You should meet her. So I met with them like the day after and told them my story of breathwork, which was more of the science of breathing rather than like the transformational version, and they were looking for someone who could like explain the science behind what they were doing. So I started to work with them. This is a studio in Venice in LA called Open. So I eventually I became full-time with them, and I was like,
Wow.
I didn't even know I could work with this 6 months ago, and now I am a full-time breathwork coach or teacher or expert. I wasn't teaching, I was like coaching the teachers there in the science of breathing. Yeah, so that was the story.
This is incredible. It just shows the power of you feeling called to learn more about this for yourself. And you never know. Like, I always talk about this. When you have an intuitive feeling that you need to go for something, in the beginning, you'll think it's for one reason.
Yeah.
But you never know where it's going to take you. Because I bet when you were like, I want to learn about breathing.
Yeah.
You would have never thought it would have taken your life to where it is now.
No.
But I'm curious because right now, the way you speak about breath work and just how you carry yourself is a very grounded, confident. Were you always like that? Or do you feel like through the practice and the experiences and like teaching other teachers that has come more and more? Or where does that come from?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's different things. Like in the beginning, I felt like I needed to know a lot about the science to prove that what I did was valid. And then when I started working more and more with clients, I saw their benefits, and I felt like the science is not as important anymore because I see real life impact, or like they wrote to me or they told me how they have benefited from the breathing. So then I was like, okay, it doesn't really matter what the science say because I know how people benefit from it, like from person to person.
Yeah.
Like they tell me everything from like they have asthma and then they started doing the breathing practices. Now they don't use their asthma inhaler anymore. Like it's pretty remarkable things that people go through, or that their anxiety is like reduced with 50% after just a few weeks and they've lived with it for their whole lives, or that they can, you know, perform better when they exercise and recover so much faster, or improve their sleep with one more hour of deep sleep every night from just doing breath work before they go to sleep. But anyways, I
just want us all to take that in, because a lot of my listeners I know don't like, they want to prioritize sleep more. It's something I've really tried my best to do this year as well. I sleep an hour more, I think, this year than I did 5 previous years. The breath work before sleep can increase 1 hour more deep sleep, you said.
I have seen that, and some of my clients have seen that. But
beautiful.
It doesn't mean that it's going to happen to everyone. But it's also interesting to know that breathing doesn't just help to fall asleep. People can be like, I fall asleep. Don't worry, I don't need anything. And then when they check their sleep quality, it's not good. So breathing before bed can improve your sleep quality, not just you falling asleep.
Yeah.
So that's quite an important
Which can affect every day.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So why I'm confident, or like why you think I come across confident, at least with the breathing. No, but I've felt a lot of times like, who am I to talk about this? Or I don't know everything about breathing, and I'm not a scientist.
I can so relate to this.
And I was like, it was before I started my certificate too. So I have a breathing certificate for coaches who wants to implement functional everyday breathing into their practices or into their work with clients, because I know a little, and I know how much that little information can take them. And people were asking me, they were like, hey, I've learned so much from your other online courses. I want to get certified. I don't want to go to someone else because I understand when you deliver the information and there's so much science, which some people like. So I was like, okay, I guess if they're asking for it, why not? So it's that, I don't know if that was an answer at all, but it's that like overcoming that you don't have to know everything. But if you know more than someone else and that can help that person, well, share it. Share the information. And I try to like remind myself that I don't have to know everything. But I know so much already that so many people don't know. So that's worth something, or that can help someone. But I still battle with it. Like, oh, someone brings up something that I haven't heard about. I'm like, I should know that. I need to go and look at the research.
The amazing thing is, I don't know where it was said, but how the wisest people are actually the people who will say, oh, that's something I'm going to look into. That's something I'll do some more research on. Where the people who maybe try to pretend they know, they will just say something.
Yeah.
So I feel like that just shows we're forever learning. And it's like, you know,
And
it's
like,
a never ending journey.
I'm battling between those all the time. I hear myself saying something to like, oh, I need to have an answer to this. And then I was like, I could have just said like, I'm not sure, but I have heard this and this and that. Because also I'm humble to science. Like science is just what we know today. 10 years from now, it might show the opposite results, you know? Because it's often like that. We think something is good, like we shouldn't eat fat, we should eat more sugar. Like, and now it's like not the opposite, but it's so, yeah, I'm humble to science. I'm humble to what we know is just what we know. And there's so much more complexity behind it.
Yeah. I want to ask something that I know a lot of my listeners deal with. And I think every single human deals with to a certain degree in a different way. We all have relationships and certain relationships trigger us.
Yeah.
Some more than others. How can we apply breath work in those moments when we feel triggered? And some people it's, you know, fight, others it's flight. It's how can we calm back down?
Also such a good question. So the thing is, like when we go into an argument or when someone says something that triggers us, we become stressed. We can like feel how our heart starts to beat and we become like even red in our face because we're like, you know, we're stressed or we are like, we're annoyed or something. Yeah. So anyways, that causes stress. We might even feel our breath starting to become up in our chest and we breathe faster when we become angry. And back to what that happens in the body is like blood is going away from our prefrontal cortex where we have the emotional connection, where we think logically and where we think rationally and all those things, long-term goals, etc. And instead of having the blood there, it goes to other parts of our brain, which are more reactive or more active when we are in fight or flight. So we go into this discussion or argument or we are with this friend and after we leave we're like, oh, why didn't I say this, or you said something that you regret and that you didn't really mean. It's because we can't function properly. Like we are not clear thinking when we're stressed. So what you can do is to use your breath to calm down, and before you react, you breathe and you respond. So you're with this person who says something triggering, and I would suggest you take a few breaths and like come back and respond when you're ready, when you have that blood in that part of your brain, so you can think clearly, so you can say the right things instead of reacting in the moment from stress and fear where you can't think clear. But it's easier said than done. But I would say
it's a practice again, isn't it?
It's a practice.
I practice it with my closest relationships if ever anything comes up.
Yeah. So it could be a good practice to be like, when I feel triggered or when I feel angry, take a breath. Just pause with a breath or two. Like it's fine. We can be quiet. We don't have to. You take some time, take some breaths, and like before you react, take some breaths and respond instead. Yeah.
I love that. That's a gift for us all.
But yeah, I need to practice that really too.
Yeah, it's beautiful how like you're an expert in this field, but even you practice.
Yeah.
It's the same as like people who see me work out. It's like, oh, you're always motivated or whatever. No, it's like of course it becomes a habit like for you breathing, but it's to push myself past my limits. It's always going to be like something I intentionally have to practice and push myself to do.
Yeah. And if you stop practicing, you wouldn't like have the results that you have already. Like, you know, we need to, it's a constant practice for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We need to practice breathing. We need to practice exercising, and we need to go to bed early.
Yeah.
Like we can't just stop doing that.
I'm good at going to bed early. I get tired very early. For me, it's an issue staying awake is like my challenge.
Okay, good.
Where can people connect with you? Where can they get to work with you? I know you have courses, you work with people one-on-one, people who really want to get to the next level when it comes to their breathing. How can they do that with you?
Yeah, I mean, they can, there is one online course, which is the essentials of breathing. You just learn the essential steps and how to practice them. And that can have real results. And then you can do the other course that is the essentials plus breathing for stress and anxiety. So you learn different breathing practices, or you can do the certificate, which includes everything on my website. You don't have to become a breathwork coach, but just because you're certified. But if you want to learn everything, why not just get certified on the way? So that includes everything. But you can also just try the free breathing library.
Amazing.
The free breathing library is 30 plus pre-recorded guided sessions for different, like it could be for relaxation, which means just reduce stress and anxiety and feel more calm. It can be before sleep. It could be to improve your breath, to improve sports performance, to improve recovery. It can be breathing for asthma, or if you're a parent, it could be breathe with your children. We have, lots of different practices.
It's amazing. So, what's the website that people...
breathcurriculum.com.
And your Instagram?
At Breath Curriculum. So it's Breath Curriculum everywhere.
Amazing. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
And it's a question I ask all my guests.
Okay.
Because my podcast is called Challenge Your Norm.
Yeah.
If you had to challenge the audience in some way, whatever first thing comes up, in order for them to help improve their life in some way, what would you challenge the listener to do?
I would challenge them to set their alarm for 5 minutes, which everyone has time to, and just listen to their breath. And the most important rule for these 5 minutes is not to judge the way you breathe. Just listen, get to know it, and then start your breathing journey after that.
Powerful and beautiful. You have calmed my soul and my nervous system. And I actually needed that today. So thank you. And I know that everyone listening has felt your beautiful energy as well. And I hope that everyone goes and checks out all your work and connects with you even further.
Yeah, write to me if you have any questions, because a lot of people have like very personal questions about their breath or about their nervous system. So I'm always happy to talk about breathing. So DM me on Instagram and I'm happy to talk about breathing. And you are creating this calm environment for me, letting me be calm here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you do.